So you guys were really excited. We have an amazing old friend with us today. We have Playmate Audra LYNN. Welcome to the show.
Hi guys. It's so great to
Yay!
see you guys.
We're so excited.
Me too.
We're so excited to have you on. And we kind of want to start with the beginning, like tell everybody where you're from and how Playboy showed up on your radar, or how you decided you even wanted to try out.
Yeah, so I was from a town of 288 people in Minnesota. So I kind of grew up in the middle of nowhere on a farm, horse ranch. And I always loved Playboy. And since I was 7 years old, I told my dad, I'm going to be a Playboy Playmate, because he had one in his bathroom that I had seen by accident. And my dad's like, where'd you see that? No, he had to hide them better. But anyway, so I saw them and I thought they were the most beautiful women in the world. And so from that point on, I always aspired to be a Playmate. And so I ended up going to Studio West and knocking on the door when I was in town. And
Ballsy,
they said,
I love it.
I know, right? And so they're like, usually there's casting calls, and I'm like, listen, I'm from out of town, and they let me test shoot, and I got accepted right away. So
That's
that was
amazing.
really cool.
Yeah, that is like a perfect story. Like everybody wishes that would happen.
It really is.
So I noticed, I was looking through our scrapbooks, and I noticed that you were around for so long. I mean, and I'm not in a bad way, but I mean like way at the very beginning, like way before Girls Next Door, way before Kendra got there.
They had so many blondes that they had to space them out. So it took me like that long to end up in the magazine. So it was like the longest wait ever. And I was staying at the mansion actually like 2 weeks after Holly got there. And you were like pretty new too when I was there too, you know? So it's like I kind of was with you guys for so many years, like on and off.
Yeah, that's why I was confused, because I was looking at the scrapbooks. I'm like, wait, okay, here's Audra. This is like when she's shooting, or this one of her issues coming out or whatever. And then I'm like, back up, and I'm like, wait, no, Audra's with us here, and Audra's with us here, and this year. And I was just like, she was like with us from like the beginning. And so I was wondering how that all unfolded. When did you shoot the pictorial?
So I shot the pictorial in 2003.
So when you went, I know you did. So when you knocked on the door, you must have done like the Polaroid test that day, because there's no way they just were like, you know, whipping everything out. So then when did you go back and actually test, and what was the test shoot like?
So I did the test just a few months after, and they told me like right away, like, oh, you're going to be Playmate, you're going to be Playmate. And it took so long, you know, like in between, like when I test shot and then became a Playmate, that they used me as a Cyber Girl in between. And so they used my test shot for Cyber Girl.
That's so weird, because I feel like they usually
weird thing.
Yeah, they wanted to say, I felt like they always wanted to save that. Like they wouldn't make like beforehand.
Right. And so a lot of Playmates weren't Cyber Girls, and it was just such a like convoluted deal with all of it, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of waiting.
Yeah, I thought for sure like it's never gonna happen, you know?
Do you remember what your test scene was? Like what they did, what your backdrop was and stuff?
It was like a dresser, and I was like laying down on a few of them, and it wasn't anything like exciting.
And then,
but I felt like that with my centerfold too. Like I have so many things that I did, and they like, my centerfold's me looking up at the girls in the studio, like their great big blown up photos, and then like bicycling. And I'm like, wait a minute, like I ride horse, I play piano, I figure skated. Like where's like, they didn't feature any of that, you know?
I would have given you a theme, Audra.
Thanks, girl.
So do you remember the very first time you came to the mansion? Tell us about it.
Yep, I got the tour. So I was going through, and the first person I met was Julie McCullough. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so amazing. Because I used to come home from school and watch Growing Pains.
Definitely. And what about the first time you're meeting Hef?
You know, Hef made me nervous. Even as many years as I was there, he made me nervous. I would start shaking, and Like I would sound like a bumbling idiot because I could never get my words out. And it was, yeah, I mean, it was intimidating, but he's such a nice, like, I felt like grounded person. And, you know, you could talk to him about everything, but it was still like nerve wracking because to me, I always looked at him as like an icon, you know?
Right. And what were your thoughts of the mansion? Was it everything you thought it was going to be?
I think even better. I loved it there. I had so much fun. I mean, you and I hung out a lot, you know, and
oh, wait, and you got to be, I wanted to emphasize this because you got to be Miss October, which is what I always wanted to be, a Miss October.
I know. Yep.
Miss
You had
October.
the best room during October. All your decorations were amazing.
Yeah, if you dare walk in.
Yes.
Only the brave. So you get Playmate. It's Miss October 2004. What did your family think and your friends?
Well, my mom freaked out. She's like, how could you disgrace the family? Like, what are you doing?
No.
And like, I did everything for my parents. I was a really great kid and I was an only child and we grew up in a really small town. So like everyone knew everybody. Everybody talked about everybody. And so my mom was just, you know, she was worried about our family reputation. You know, I totally understand. And my dad's like, go for it. You know, like he was cool about it all. And it wasn't until my parents actually came out and met Hef and went to the mansion, I think it was over Easter, that my mom's like, oh, it's not like what I thought it was all about, you know?
Definitely.
So.
Easter's a very safe holiday to ease the family in, too.
Yeah.
It's a safe bet.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, even still, like, it wasn't what I thought. Because, like, I mean, when we laid out by the pool, like, I wanted to, like, not have any tan lines, you know? And then they're like, no, like, you can't be around the butlers and, you know, naked and everything else. Like, there were, you know, rules. I mean, we could be topless here and there, but, like, we had to be, like, modest about it, which I thought was crazy for the Playboy Mansion, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I thought was kind of one of the things missing at the mansion was kind of, I don't know, I think I expected more like innocent, spontaneous, funny naked moments. Like I remember years later, there was this time where like, I think it was like, I forget who was all there. We were all naked and we like streaked through the Great Hall during like a buffet or movie or something because we just thought it was funny. And I kind of always pictured like these lighthearted, funny nude moments happening at the mansion. And there really weren't that many, surprisingly.
Right.
But
we're bursting everyone's bubble right now who thinks that like they walk into the Playboy Mansion, everybody's nude walking around.
Yeah.
When your issue came out, were you like super excited? Was everybody in your town talking?
Oh yeah, everyone is talking about it. I got to go back to my hometown to do an autograph signing. It was one of the largest ones. I stayed there like 4 hours after what I was supposed to be there for. And it was like a huge hit because, I mean, my town was 288 people, but the biggest town next to that was like 15,000. And I swear, like, everyone showed up. Even my, like, school teachers, which was weird.
Oh my gosh, that's so
though.
funny.
Yeah.
Audra, I have a question. When you got your second bunny necklace, was that at like your Playmate orientation?
Yes.
Because we never got to go through that. And I'm curious, what was that like? Like, did they give you press training or did they tell you anything about Playboy history? Or were you there during the time period when they were telling everybody not to be escorts? Because there was somebody trying to recruit people into like the call girl ring.
Yeah. Well, I was unfortunately in that area because one of the girlfriends was the recruiter. I don't know if you guys know that.
Yes.
Oh,
but,
we know.
Yeah.
That's how she got the
so we
nickname.
got told that. I mean, like passports were checked in my day. I don't know if you guys knew that too. So like if anybody suspected anybody, like you had to turn your passport in and they looked at it. And I know there was a Playmate of the Year that didn't get it, you know, because they had checked her passport. And so, yeah, I mean, that was part of it. I wish that they would have done more like media training because you have to give so many like spontaneous interviews and everything else. And like, I'm just not naturally good at that. So I wish I would have gotten like a little bit more training in that. And they basically kind of gave you a pamphlet. They go over everything, but we had to study up and learn, because I gave a lot of tours at the Playboy Mansion, you know, and had a bunny costume.
Well, they give you a
so I worked a
packet.
lot of promotions.
Yeah, you definitely
Lots
get a
of things
long
to
pack.
memorize.
Yeah,
Yes.
with all the mansion stuff alone, let alone like
Right.
Playmate and Playboy stuff, just the mansion details.
Yeah.
I know you already touched on this, like you were staying at the mansion, you like practically, well, not practically, you lived there for a while with us. And I just felt, I
Twice.
remember, what?
Twice, actually.
Yeah, and I just remember looking back on that as so much fun, and like you
Yeah.
were part of the family. I felt like there was just like such a bond
Yeah, I
between
loved
all of
it.
us.
We all got along so well, and we had so much fun, and it was such a great experience. And I lived there the first time before either one of you guys came in. And then that was like during when Tina was the head girlfriend. And so I stayed there then, and then again later.
My
Yeah.
favorite days were our Knott's Berry Farm days. Players
Yes.
Day. Those are my favorites.
That was great.
So fun. So you were there during what we call the Mean Girl era.
Yes.
And I just want to know what your experience was like with that, and like if you felt that energy too, or if you were on the other side of it at all, like what your experience with that whole era was.
So, I mean, like, I got along with everybody, so I didn't really get that too much. I mean, there was one girl that, you know, we would go downtown LA, and thanks to you, Bridget, I got into the whole rhinestone thing with you and Crystal, and so we were going down there and keeping that business, you know,
For sure.
pretty busy with all of our rhinestone orders. But so we would get like fake purses and all that stuff, and she would always comment like, "Oh, that's not real," and I'm like, "Who cares?" You know.
Yeah,
But that was like the
exactly.
worst that I got, you know. I got along with everybody, but I heard how they talked, and I didn't really appreciate that, and I didn't like how there was like all the cattiness, and I saw it, but I wasn't in it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't just towards Holly and I and Crystal and people like that and Stacy, but it was also against Hef behind his back.
Right. They were very vindictive. They had their own agenda. And I felt like, you know, you and Holly and Crystal and everybody, Stacy, we were always like the happy, we didn't care. We didn't want to get into the drama. We didn't want to get into the cattiness. We just were happy to be there. We enjoyed our time, and I thought we all had fun.
Yeah, me too. I thought we did too. And then, what was your thoughts when they got booted? Because Holly and I like literally had a party in each of the rooms. Did
Oh,
it like
yeah.
affect you at all?
I was just happy to see everybody gone because I was sick of the drama. And when it got down to you guys, I'm like, yes, because it was like we were all the happy-go-lucky. There was no drama between us. We all had a great time, and it really got like quiet then. It was great.
Quiet
It just
in
felt
a
like
good
such
way.
a relief.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was it like living at the mansion? So as girlfriends, and as everyone knows, we had a lot of rules and restrictions and 9:00 curfews and
Yeah.
just like a whole bunch of stuff we had to follow, and Hef's like schedule and everything. But what was it like living there and not being a girlfriend and not having those same rules?
It was amazing. The second time I ended up living there was because I did get myself in a bad situation. And I went to Holly and I was like, listen, like, this is what's going on. And she's like, oh no, you know, I'll talk to Hef and see if you can move in. And that was like my safety. And like, I can't thank, you know, Holly or Hef enough for letting me come and stay, because I didn't want to be a Dorothy Stratton. And that's where I felt like I was headed,
Yeah.
you know,
sweet.
so yeah. But I also didn't have the curfew. So I had a serious boyfriend at the time, and I could go out and date and have all those perks, and you guys were stuck home, and it's like, oh, come out with me, and you guys couldn't, you know? So
Yeah. Totally. Okay, so your issue is out and now it's competition for Playmate of the Year. What was that like? Did you feel a lot of competition? Was there girls like doing catty things? Was it like people trying to vie for attention? Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah. There was a lot of drama around it. And like I had worked a lot for Playboy, you know, so like I felt like I was in the running because like I had done so many promotions. I went all over the world with Playboy and I really, really, really worked hard, you know? And then there was another girl that I found out was like kind of second runner up. And her and I always got along, but then I found out like she slipped like a Quaalude into my drink. And then like I don't know if you guys ever knew about that.
No.
But, like, my friend from Hawaii, and she's like, girl, I think like you got slipped something. Cause I'm like, my tongue is numb. I can't feel my tongue. And like all this like weirdo. And I found out it was like her. And thank goodness, like, I don't know if you remember Jameson that worked at the mansion, but like he helped like get me to my room, get me changed, like complete gentleman, like got me into bed, like great guy. And it's like, you know, like I don't look at like Hef and Playboy is like bad, but there were bad apples in, you know, a couple of Playmates and a couple of like girlfriends, you know, and that's where like a lot of the trouble came from. And otherwise, like 99% of everybody was like great. And like same with the Playmates. Like I never felt like competitive with all the other Playmates and everything. We were all kind of like on the same level. We all had fun. We all loved doing the promotions. We got to stay with one another. And it was like a great, big, huge family. But there were a couple of like bad apples, you know? I mean, just like everything.
I'm sorry to hear that she did that to you. That's horrible.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff. Later on, she tried to steal a boyfriend of mine. And like, there was a lot of drama with that girl. Yeah. And like, I'm so nice. I just kept like letting her in, like, thinking people change and people grow up and people are different and like she'd be nice to me and I'm like, okay, like maybe she's changed, and then I'd let her in and then she'd bite me again, you know? So yeah.
You'll have to text us a hint later on who it is. I know. I'm like, can you just tell us who it is and we can edit it out?
You'll be surprised.
That's crazy. Okay, so who did end up getting Playmate of the Year that year? Because I don't remember.
Oh, Carmela did, and she's a sweetheart.
Oh, that was Carmela.
Yeah, she's awesome. So like that was cool. I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why I didn't remember that. We had Carmela on the show not that long ago. I should have remembered that she was.
Yeah. It's hard to keep up with all of us in our years.
I know, right? So what was it like when you found out you didn't get it? I mean, I'm sure there was disappointment and stuff like that, but what were your thoughts? Were you like okay with it? Were you really happy for Carmela, or were you like just really disappointed? And
well, I mean, I think everybody wants to be, right? Like, I mean, your Playmate, you want to be chosen as like the head girl for the year, you know? So I was like disappointed, but at the same time, I was happy for Carmela. She was a great girl and she was always nice to me, and I didn't have any problems with her. I was working so much that it didn't really matter because like I was so busy with Playboy, and I was like so lucky to be one of the Playmates that still got to travel all abroad and do all these cool promotions, and Bally Slot Machines took me on. And so I was doing so many promotions with them, and it was just such a great experience.
So even after you got Playmate and the Playmate of the Year stuff is over, you still got to stay at the mansion and hang out and all that stuff. There's a 4th of July episode that we just reviewed, and I swear you were with one of the bachelors.
I was, but that's the weird thing. So I was going to bring that up because that was before I was a Playmate. So like how that got like slid in there is so weird to me, because that was like from, I think, 2002 to 2003.
Oh, so crazy. So they used old mansion footage.
They used yeah, because like I was dating Michael Keaton at the time. So then you guys said that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I look like a cheater. I wasn't, you know, like that was way before. And so, yeah, that got like slid into the Girls Next Door.
That makes sense because they were showing so much 4th of July footage, like at the beginning and at the end. It makes sense that they'd be like pulling footage from all different years. Because even when they showed me on the slip and slide, it was like half from 4th of July, half from Bridget's surprise party.
That was such a fun thing.
I know.
I only went once because I felt like my life was on the line. But it was like so exciting. It was so fun. That was the best slip and slide ever. I can't believe you guys got in so much trouble for that. I just listened to the other episode where Slip and Slide got upset.
Yeah, we got the old cease and desist.
Crazy.
We still kept saying it though. We're still saying it. Slip and slide.
Hula hoop.
Yeah. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Right.
Okay, wait. So for anybody who's like part of Bachelor Nation, who was the Bachelor?
It was Aaron Berge. He was the second Bachelor.
Okay, because I was
That
like,
was
I
the new one, and like they had already broken up, but he wasn't allowed to say by contract that they had broken up. So then, of course, like I was the girl that broke them up, which I wasn't, and so I got a lot of hate for that.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So
they had like message boards dedicated to hating me.
Oh, we know about that. That sucks.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was just going to say. We know all about the message boards dedicated to hating on people.
It sucked to go through it then too, because online hate wasn't such like a known and accepted thing that everybody gets. So you kind of feel like, oh my God, this is only happening to me. They just hate me this bad.
Right. And it was like, it was such a new thing. Like I felt like I had to like defend myself, and then I got on there, and that's like the worst thing you can do. Like just hold your head high, know who you are, and like keep doing what you're doing, you know?
Exactly. That's great advice.
So what was it? Explain to people what it's like. I mean, we've talked about it on here, but explain to people what it's like going out with Hef, like out on the town, going to the clubs or going out to dinner or whatever.
So, it was a ton of fun. I don't know, like I had heard that's how he kind of watches potential playmates to see how they interact at dinner, how they interact going out at clubs. And like, he didn't want the like trashy girls that were, you know, shaking it and showing everything off, which we know who did. And so that was always surprising to me because he hated that, you know? And so like, it was how you conducted yourself and everything. And I loved it. It was great. It was nerve-wracking at first. And I think the first time I went out, I looked like a nun. I had like a shirt up to here and like pants, and everybody else had their boobs out. And like, I remember that first picture. I'm like, oh, what was I wearing?
You know what though? I think everybody thinks that on their first night out. Like I look back and think, oh my God, what was I wearing? But like, how do you figure out when you've never been in this kind of element before? How do you figure out from your own wardrobe what to wear out with Hef and his girlfriends to the clubs?
Well, and I came from a town of 288 people. Like you don't expose like any cleavage at all. So like I had a turtleneck on, you know? But it was fun, and it was like so exciting to like see celebrities like come up, and then you got to meet so many people. And I remember meeting like Pam Anderson for the first time, and like I always like looked up to her and thought she was amazing, and still do. Like I ended up doing a shoot for Vogue with her, and she is like so down to earth, such a great person. And
yeah, I just remember having so much fun, like all of us going out to the clubs, and obviously we've got security and the ropes, and just walk right into the clubs and bottles and all that stuff. And me, you, and Crystal, and Stacy, and Holly, and everybody just like having so much fun and dancing and like having a great time.
I remember the one time we were like exiting, and this girl went to like go put her hands on me, and security just like took her out. Like didn't even hesitate. I'm like, oh my God. It was crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
There's a line, I guess. There's a line there somewhere.
Right.
And I just remember that like after the Mean Girls left, it was such a good time, like so much bonding and such a tight group. And I think Holly even has a picture, and it was like all of us, and it was like, this is what the group should have been, like right here.
Right.
Like,
yes, it was a holiday picture of us and Stacy and Crystal. And I'm like, this should have just been the group.
Right.
Like it would have been
we were
so
just
much
so
fun.
upbeat and positive, and had so much fun. And I feel like I was in your room, Bridget, more than I was in my own room. We were always like hanging out, and I remember your scrapbooks and how amazing those were. And
see, I miss those days. I miss those days of like everybody just coming to my room and like hanging out and watching TV and having a glass of wine and gossiping about everything. And talking about the parties and planning our outfits. And like, I just miss all of that. I loved all that so much.
Hef got mad though. He got mad that we were hanging out so much because he like gave her a lecture and was like, you need to be doing more things with the girlfriends, not hanging out with the playmates. And like, she got
that is weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
And I'm like, but I was like living there at the time. So like, what does it matter? But I also think that Hef thinks that Crystal and I had like a thing going on, which no.
Oh, maybe
like,
he's jealous
friends,
that there was a little like unseen erotica happening.
Yeah, no.
That's funny.
That's funny. I did not know that. I guess okay, so then things start getting a little bit weird. Like Kendra, well, I didn't know things were weird. But Kendra comes around, and according to Kendra's book, she thought that we were trying to move you in and make her a girlfriend and get rid of her, which blew my mind because I never thought that then. You had been around way longer than her, and had we had wanted, or you had wanted to be a girlfriend, that is something that could have happened years before. So it blew my mind that she thought that we were all in cahoots to try and do that. Do you remember anything like that going on?
So like everything like changed once the show started. And I don't know if it was like a competitive thing on like Kendra's side or like, I don't really understand any of it because Kendra and I didn't have a beef. Like, we didn't have any issues. Like if I would get stuff like, you know how like we'd always get like freebies from all these different companies and everything else. And like I got a whole bunch of sporty stuff, which wasn't like me. And so like I'd set it outside Kendra's door and like we would talk. She was a little more aloof, you know, than any of the other girls. But like we still like we got along. Everything was fine. Then once the show started, it was like a completely different situation. I don't know what happened. And the only thing, like listening to your guys' podcast has been amazing because like I'm starting to kind of piece things together. And so like when the show
are we.
Huh?
Yeah.
So are we.
Right. So when the show first started, you know, I was dating Michael Keaton at the time. I had just landed like Frasier, Mad TV. I was doing skits for Jay Leno. Like I was doing like a lot of like really cool comedy stuff. And that's what I wanted to do. And he was like, don't do reality TV. It's the kiss of death. You guys changed that. But like when you first start shooting, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how things are going to be spun. You don't know how the show is going to be. Like you don't know anything. So like I wanted to kind of keep my distance. I was happy for you guys. You guys had your show. That was awesome. And I didn't want to also take anything away from you guys because it's your show. And so like I wanted to like stay back and not really even participate, you know, just keep living there, doing my thing and like not participate. Well, then I got in trouble because I didn't sign to be on camera. And I was like, well, it's really about them. Well, you're living there. You have to sign it or you have to leave. So I'm like, okay. So I signed it. But every time I saw the cameras, and you'll see like some of the episodes where like I'll be walking out of the kitchen. I'm like, oh, and I'll like duck back in, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was really like just trying to like stay out of it. So how she got that from like when I read her book, I was so confused. Like that wasn't even on the table. And like none of us ever talked about that. And it wasn't even reality, you know?
Yeah, I was really shocked too because I mean, like there just was nothing in it for you. You were already a playmate. You were already dating other people. You were already living at the mansion. Why would you be like, you know what I need? What I'm missing in my life is a bunch of rules. So I think I should be a girlfriend.
Right. And I mean, Hef did ask me. He asked me like quite a ways, way before the show, you know, if I wanted to be a girlfriend. And I was like, no, you know, like I'm dating somebody. Like I'm good, you know? And he never asked again and he was polite and it was fine, you know?
Yeah. It's just so strange. And then
but there's a lot of strange stuff with the book, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. Did things start getting weird with you and Kendra after that point then? Once we started shooting and stuff? Like,
you know, I didn't feel like anything got weird until the bag incident, to be quite frank. You know, like I still thought everything was fine. We didn't hang out like you got, like we all hung out, but like during Sunday Fun in the Suns, like I go and I'd sit and hang out with her, and she'd tell me that she was a really private person and she took a while to like bond with people, which I understand, and like we truly got along. So like I'm at a loss for all
So the
that
book was a shock to you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in the Girls Next Door episode 2, it's called Meet the Girls, and we're all gonna go ice skating. And I felt like this is the first part where I felt like they made you look kind of bad. Like I feel like there's a scene where I come down.
Yeah.
And you were like, and you said something like, I don't know if I wrote it down, but you said something kind of snarky about our outfits, like, oh, if I knew you're gonna wear like a silly outfit or something, I would have worn one too or something. And at the time, I didn't think it was like a bad comment or a snarky comment or anything at all. Like I was just like, oh yeah, you should have worn it. Da, da, da. Like, but I feel like the show edited it to make it look like you're being like, and being mean about it.
I feel like that too. And that totally wasn't how I was meaning it at all. I mean, I guess I should have known that you guys would dress up because like you always dress up and you're always cute and you always have the best outfits. But like I didn't mean it like in a mean way at all, or because you guys are always adorable, and I just wore like, I don't know, I had skating outfits. I would have wore a skating outfit is what I meant,
Yeah, totally.
Like and rewind, like I don't know if people know this, but like I was a figure skater. I was like, a very, very good figure skater. I do triple jumps and everything. And so I thought like I could do that when I got there, and I hadn't skated in 10 years. And so like I kind of made it a complete ass of myself because I thought
I felt like you were still really good. Like I have pictures of you like in arabesque pose. And,
I know.
I thought you were really good.
The rest of us are like,
I tried to do a few jumps and I'd fall, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, that was amazing to me. I thought it was good, but I'm totally with you. Like at the time, I did not take it as like a snarky comment. Watching it back, I didn't take it as a snarky comment.
Right.
But watching it back now, like 15 years later, I'm like, oh my God, they were totally trying to make her look bitchy right there. And that was not even, she wasn't trying to be like that. I know that. And I know how I felt at the time. But I thought it was worth just bringing up because that whole episode was really, like Holly puts it, an assassination of my character. And I feel like they were doing it a little bit on a much smaller scale, but to you as well. Like just trying to make there look like there's a lot of cattiness, a lot of jealousy, a lot of like mean girl spirit that wasn't going on at that time at all. We were all so close.
We were like really close friends. Like I wouldn't be snarky to you. And that wasn't my personality either, And so I completely... looking back at everything, reading Kendra's book, and then like listening to you guys and seeing how the show did everything, like I completely feel like there was character assassinations and they would build up the people they wanted to,
Yeah, I think this early on in the show, they just assumed that there was a lot of cattiness and a lot of competitiveness and a lot of jealousy, and they were going to play on that and really like amp it up. But then I feel like, and I haven't rewatched later on yet, but I feel like so at first they were trying to really amp up that jealousy and that competitiveness and that mean spirit, and then I feel like at some point they kind of realize that that's not really what's going on here. And then they start showing the show as more friendships and bonding and girl fun and that kind of thing. Although I am only on episode 7 right now. So I haven't of season 1. So I haven't gotten that far, but so let's get to the burning question that social media has been talking about. And I feel like you've had to go on and defend yourself about, and the show was just so much drama about it. And I have so many questions about how it went down on your side because we've never actually talked about it. Let me set up the scene for everybody. I think you all know it, but let me just set the scene up. We are going to Vegas for Carmela's birthday. It's 4:30 in the morning. We're trying to catch like the first flight out to Vegas. Kendra bought Carmela a present and for some reason left it down in the dining room, which is not, well, I'll just start out with saying that's not a smart idea because I know it's our home, but the mansion is also a lot like a hotel and a lot of people come and go and you don't necessarily know everybody that's there. And butlers change crew overnight and don't know like what a bag is that's sitting out or who left it or why. It's weird that she left it down there to begin with, I feel like, but that's neither here nor there. It was left down there. The next morning we get up, we're ready to leave. Kendra cannot find her present for Carmela. We're all tearing the place apart. My first thought is, production did this. They're trying to create drama to make us late for this flight. And I literally pulled the producer aside and I was like, this isn't funny. Like, we're totally going to miss the flight. Like, if you guys hid this bag, you need to tell us. And they were like, we didn't do it. We swear, we swear. So then my next thought is, well, I don't know. I didn't know what was in the bag. Maybe it's just a gift card or something like that, like a Sephora gift card or something. And the mansion probably thought it was an empty bag and threw it away. So then we're digging through the garbage.
Right.
Can't find it. And eventually it's like, okay, you guys, we just have to go. Forget the present. Find it later. Worry about it later. Like, get her something when you get there, whatever. Like, we have to go. So we left without the bag. And then we get back, and in real life, we get back, we still have no idea like what happened with the bag or anything like that. When we get back in the scene, you and Crystal are in my room, and Hef comes in. I can't remember if Anastasia was there or not, but
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so.
Everyone's in the room, and I just want to know, like, at that moment, like, rewatching at the time, I had no clue nothing about the bag, but rewatching it right now, like, I wanted to know, like, did you wake up that morning and hear that there was a huge fiasco about this missing bag? Or like, when did you first hear about this missing bag?
So I heard about it when Holly called me at like 4:30 in the morning or whatever, and asked if I had seen the bag. And like, I was sleeping. I was like dead asleep.
Sorry to call you at 4:30. That sounds so foreign to me now. I think we were just desperate.
I didn't even know you called her.
I don't remember doing it, but it was so early. Like, my mind is not working.
And she's like, and Holly was like frantic. She's like, have you seen her bag? And there's a gift card and like everything. And I'm like, no, because like at that moment, like we should like rewind. But like, I wasn't thinking about that at the time, because like what I thought I had was a gift bag. It had a whole bunch of stuff in it. So like, I'm thinking she's talking about a gift card for Carmela and like this little bag. And like, so I'm like, no, I don't have it. You know, like, I don't know what you're talking about, you know? And so
you go back to sleep and not thinking anything of it.
Not thinking anything about it. Right.
And then when do you find out that it's like this big deal and everybody's been looking for it, and how do you like know that it's the bag that you have?
It wasn't until the next day. Like, I always slept in really late back then. And so like, it was probably like 11 o'clock noon when I'd roll out of bed. And then I looked into this bag, because what happened was the night before I had gone out on a date with Michael, and I didn't get home until like midnight or so, maybe even 1 o'clock. And so I came strolling in, and there was this black bag sitting on the buffet table that was up against the wall at the time. And I don't know if you guys did it, but I know Crystal and I did all the time. But like, if there was a party at the mansion, we'd be like, hey, we don't have any makeup on and stuff. We don't want to go out there. Like, will you go snag a couple gift bags for us? And they would. Like, did you guys do that?
That rings a bell. Like, I don't remember specifically, but I remember like when I joined the group and parties we would go to around town. That was my first introduction to gift bags, and you would get some good shit. Okay. But that rings a bell. Like, I don't specifically remember getting anything from like a backyard party, but they had these backyard parties that companies would sponsor all the time. And I can see, I mean, that does ring a bell, like being like, oh, is there extra gift bags? Because there usually would be.
Right. And so like, when you called me at 4:30 in the morning, you're like, it's a Victoria's Secret bag. It's a Victoria's Secret gift card. And I'm like, no, because the bag that I had that night was a black bag that I had taken off that table. Because I even walked up to it and I was like, oh, yay, a gift bag, you know, and I like peeked in it for a split second. It had all kinds of different makeup items. Like, it had a whole bunch of different things in it, right? Just like a gift bag would. So I took it upstairs, didn't even like go through it because I was tired, went to bed. Holly calls and says, hey, do you have this Victoria's Secret bag? And I'm thinking like a pink, your walls, thinking of Bridget's bag. Walls. And like, no, I don't have a gift bag that's Victoria's Secret. I don't have a gift card. Like, wasn't even I didn't even think about that. You know what I mean? And so then it wasn't until like later that I opened it up and I looked, and then stupid me, I did panic. Because I'm like, oh my God, like we all get along. I've never lied to you guys. Like we never had any issues. And I'm like, oh shit, like this looks horrible on me. And then at the same time, one of the girls that was testing came up to my room to say goodbye because she was on a flight out, and she was like, oh my God, that's going to look really bad. And so like we like freaked out, and that was like a moment of panic. But I did end up going, and this is where Kendra's book again is like confusing to me, because she's like, oh, I saw Audra, I was going to kick her ass. And I'm like, what? Because I walked right up to her, and there was another party going on at the mansion, and she was up next to the bar where like the bathroom was, like the not bathroom but bathhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I walked up to her and I was like, hey, I really apologize, and like, do you want me to replace it? Do you want money? Like I feel horrible, like let me replace it. She's like, oh no, Hef already did. And I was like, yeah, but it's not really like Hef's responsibility. I feel horrible, let me make this up to you. And she's like, no, it's okay. And then I read Kendra's book and I'm like, wait a minute, like we had a full-on conversation. Yeah. I apologized for all of this. I felt horrible. It was a huge misunderstanding, and the same time too is like I talked to Mary, and Mary's like, we're not going to bring this up on the show. We're not going to talk about this. Like, it was a huge mistake, huge misunderstanding. You're good. You're fine. Like, we're not going to talk about it. And then here everybody talks about it, and she like forbade me to talk about it. So like I never got to say my side. I never got to say anything.
It's frustrating when you don't have a voice and there's just these stories floating around. And back then there was no social media. So it's not like you could hop on Twitter and be like, hey guys, that's not really what happened. Like you were just kind of stuck with no voice for so long.
Right. I mean, up until now. Until now. But I mean, at the same time, like I knew in my heart, there was nothing malicious about it. I could still sleep at night. Like it does bug me to this day, because I feel bad if that's what Kendra really thinks in the book, because like that wasn't the intentions. And I loved Carmela. I wouldn't want her to like miss out on getting a gift for her birthday. Like it was such a horrible situation, and I felt so bad. And I hate that there's that like misunderstanding through all of this, and I never had a voice. But at the same time, like I know where my heart was, and that wasn't it,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know, but like the producers of the show were like all pissed, or the executive producer, I should say, of the show was all pissed about it, and he wanted to make a big deal about it.
Yeah, that's what Mary told me. And Mary's like, they're not going to, I'm not going to let them, all this stuff. And so then when things did come out about it, I was like, well, that's really shitty, because like I never got to say anything.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because what the show did, the producer was pissed about it, and he wasn't allowed to do what he wanted to do as far as like shaming you for doing that. And so he did it in other ways, which we're going to talk about next, and I'm sure you know about. But and I think also that editing, that ice skating comment, like all that editing came after all of this happened. And so that was like purposely like the first little seed he's trying to drop to like sabotage your character and who you are. Like he's trying to like show, okay, this person we don't trust this girl. She's saying mean things. Right. That's the first little seed.
And I mean, like you guys knew me, and you dealt with me like on a daily basis. Like, would you ever think that would happen out of me? Like,
yeah,
never.
That's what I was going to say, is when we heard that supposedly you stole the bag, that was just so like mind blowing and weird to us. And we were just told that's what happened. We never heard anything else. And also I was going to ask you if you remember this, Audra, like exactly when you moved out or how quickly it happened, because I'm thinking back to this timeline, and granted, we were just starting filming the show. We were like shooting the promotional stuff. We were super, super busy. So we were really busy. But I almost feel like I turned my head and then all of a sudden you were gone and you quote unquote stole the bag. Like I don't remember even like bumping into you in the hall or anything.
Nothing, because they told me that I wasn't allowed to talk to you guys about it. I needed to stick to myself, and that within 2 weeks, like I had left. Like.
Did they tell you to leave? Or what? Yeah. Or did you like just say I'm leaving, or how did it go down?
No, Kendra made such a huge stink out of it with Hef that Hef was like, I have no choice. Like, you have to go. And like that breaks my heart. And I still wish that I could have had like a sit down with Hef. I mean, and talked about all of it, because it really sucks. I mean, like it was completely innocent and there's no issues with that, you know? I mean, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it sucks. And Audra, we've talked about this privately, but I wanted to say it publicly on the podcast too. I wanted to apologize to you for not reaching out after all that happened, because I look back on it and I'm like, okay, that's crazy, because we were so close and having so much fun together. And I remember Bridget and I just kind of being like shell shocked when we heard that supposedly you stole Kendra's bag, and just thinking, okay, that's fucking weird. And then for me to like not reach out to you is just crazy. So I wanted to apologize for not reaching out, because I can't imagine doing that today. And I'm not saying this to make excuses. I'm just kind of saying to explain, like, I know why I didn't do it, because back then I was like so loyal to Hef and I didn't want to do anything that would piss him off. And it's not that Hef would have been pissed at me for reaching out to a playmate, because playmates are always still part of the family, kind of no matter what. But I felt like if I were to reach out to you, he would get pissed at me, because in his mind, I would be going against Kendra. And he was always trying to like pit me and Kendra against each other, or like make a big thing out of that, or like point at me and saying like, you're not being, you know, on Kendra's side or something. So I know where that was coming from me. So
100%.
But it's still
Yeah,
not okay.
I agree.
So I wanted to apologize to you for never reaching out, because we haven't talked until like just a few months ago, and it's been years.
Yeah.
I feel like,
you know, at the same time, like I understand, you know, because you got told one narrative. I knew that you guys got told that narrative. Like, I mean, I've always thought and would think about reaching out, but then I know how popular you guys got after that. So it's like, are you ever even going to see my message? You know, and it did always kind of bother me. It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, it was
I
too
just
much.
remember feeling, like you said, Holly, so shell-shocked about it at the time and so confused, because we were so close and all that stuff, and it just seemed so out of character and so weird. And then I remember feeling like, oh my God, almost like a personal betrayal. And again, this is just based on what we were being told. And I thought, how could she do that? Like, if that's what happened, like, how could she do that? Like, we were all so tight and so close. And then, you know, Kendra's just freaking out and in such a outrage about it. And then all of a sudden you're gone and stuff. And so it just felt like it had to have been true. And that's what happened. Right. And because now she's gone, and holy shit, like, and it just was just so much, right. As on top of like, everything else that was going on. And then it never gets resolved on the show, because like Hef wouldn't let it be talked about, like what happened to the bag, or like how that all went down or anything like that. But then in commentary, like a year later, we watch the episodes and we do like the commentary behind the scenes. Like Kendra like makes it definitely known in the commentary.
Yeah, I missed all that. I never heard any of the commentary. So like I just knew about her book.
The commentary in the DVDs is how people know what, or started like catching on as to what happened and who did it, and where all the rumors started going from there. And then her book fueled it after that.
Yeah, because Hef didn't want it out there, because in his mind, you're still a playmate, you're still part of the company. Like, he didn't want that out there.
And I was still working for Playboy at the time too, you know? And so it was really frustrating to me to hear that like this stuff like came out, and then I wasn't able to talk about it. And then like, it just,
I know. I'm curious though, how did they find out it was you? Did you come forward and go to Mary's office and be like, I didn't know this was Kendra's bag, but I have it? Or did somebody else say something to somebody? Or how did that go down?
I'm not exactly sure. I think it's because I went up to Kendra and I said, hey, listen, I'm sorry, you know? And so I think then she went to Hef and talked to him about it.
See. I didn't know if somebody approached you first and then you went to Kendra. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, I went to her.
So how soon after they find out that you took the bag to you having to move out?
I did it in about 2 weeks. I found a place in Santa Monica and just moved. So
because it's so weird. Like Holly and I talked about this. Like we don't even remember seeing you pack up.
I know, it's like a lot of that's like a blur to me too, because it was like such a shocking thing to have happen, you know, and it was like all over something like so innocent.
But on the show, you're still around for a little while longer because the show, spoiler alert to people who watch, is not put in order. Like some things happened months before, some things happened weeks after, that kind of stuff. So even though you're in the process of leaving after this bag thing happens, in the show, you're still there, and we're getting ready to do Operation Playmate. Where we're going to get in the bunny costumes, and they don't show the rest of us getting in our costumes. We're just already magically in them, but they focus on you getting in the costume, and I'm trying to zip it up and I can't, which is not unusual. And then you call up, what I thought was funny, you call up for the butlers to come and help, but what I thought was super funny about it is you're like, better bring two.
Yeah. But remember, like, I was into comedy at the time, you know, so like my whole acting was about comedy and being funny. And so like I knew that they were filming, so like I wanted to make it kind of funny. I'm like, bring two, you know, and then like my faces when they're putting it on.
Yeah,
like,
your face.
I mean, that's like, that was me like hamming it up, you know, and I think people just think it's like real, you know?
Yeah, people think that it was like so painful for you. And I'm like, no, those faces, like she's totally playing into this scene with the faces and stuff. Yeah. And they're like focusing in on the zipper, and Holly's trying to push your ribs in, and like this whole thing. But it's funny and stuff. And I remember watching it at the time thinking it was funny and laughing about it and stuff. But watching it back now, and I'm not trying to be like a anti-comedy person or anything like that, but watching it back now, I feel like, God, that's so mean. And I feel like it's deliberately like trying to fat shame you. And I feel like it's like playing on people's body images, and I just feel like they were deliberately doing that to you because you had stolen the bag, and it's another like try and attack on you. This is my take on it anyway. It was another like little attack on you that the producer could do because he was so mad on Kendra's behalf that you were like in his mind getting away with this, and he couldn't do what he wanted with the scene. So he was going to make you look bad in a different way.
Right. But I think like, I don't know when the editing happened, but like that was way before the bag incident ever happened, you know? So I don't know. I honestly think they're mad because I wouldn't sign the contract for so long, and then they had to like threaten me and be like, you have to like leave if you don't sign the contract. Right. And so like, you know, I'm 115 pounds at 5'8", trying to fit into that bunny costume. And, you know, I don't know if people know too, like when we sign our Playmate contracts, like we can't change our hair, we can't gain or lose 5 pounds. Like it has to be within like a 5 pound range. Like, do you remember that, Holly? Did you have that when you were?
I remember talking to Playmates about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like I was fitted to a bunny costume. Like I had to make sure that I always fit that bunny costume, you know? So like my costume, I never had a problem with, but then going into that military one, like, you guys were right. It's like fitted to a certain person.
Okay. So after that, you're not living at the mansion anymore, but are you allowed to still come up for like buffet dinners and movies and parties and that kind of stuff? Or are you kind of like,
no, I went to a few parties. I didn't ask to come up for like any of the movie nights or anything like that, but I did go to like the parties, and I still worked a lot of events there because I was giving tours and still working promotions and everything.
And did people like treat you differently, did you feel like, or was it at the time?
No, like, I felt like I lost my family. I felt like I lost, you know, you guys and being able to, you know, hang out with you guys all the time and everything. Like that was frustrating.
Yeah, I know we were really sad too, because I mean, like we've talked about in this podcast, we were all super close. So it was all just so shocking, and it was like losing a family member.
Right.
So I remember being really bummed too, because it's like when you have a good group and you get along with people, you want those people to stay because you know that everyone, you know, like you know what they could get replaced with.
Yeah, totally. So the stakes are high.
I think too, like, you know, we have to remember that we're like in our early 20s. So it was like, I should have been more vocal about it, though I was told to like not talk about any of it, you know? And it's like, I should have been more vocal. I should have gone straight to your guys' room and talked to you about it, even though I was told not to, you know what I mean? And just told you what was going on.
Well, that's easy to say looking back on it, but at the time, like, you don't go against what Hef and Mary say.
Right.
Yeah, especially when that's your job. It's scary.
Yeah.
But even just living there and stuff, like if Mary told me, don't ever say anything to this, I don't want to hear you talking about this ever again, like I would feel like that was a total threat. Like I could never talk about the thing, you know, like whatever it was. Okay, so fast forward, because I don't think we really saw you too much after that during our duration of Girls Next Door. I could be wrong. If something came up, let me know. But after we left the mansion, did you come back after that at all?
No, not at all. I didn't even start. I quit working in promotions too. I don't know. I think I was just trying to do more acting and focus on like an actual like career. And then like, you know, your agents in Hollywood and everybody are like, you got to distance yourself from Playboy and try to make yourself more of an established actress and all that. So.
Tell us about your life, like what happened from like when we last saw you to like now, like in a nutshell. I know you're married. I know you have a daughter. Like tell everybody how your transition kind of went.
I ended up leaving Hollywood and I went back to my hometown. I started showing dogs, which dogs have always been my passion. And
what
animals
kind of
in
dogs?
general. I have Chinese Cresteds, an Amstaff, and a German Shepherd.
Wow.
But I used to breed I used to breed Chinese Cresteds. And so I did a ton of shows.
No Pekingese?
No Pekingese. Shown a few, but so then I ended up going on the road because like I think once you're a Playmate, like you always feel like you got to travel, and like staying home in one spot is like too much for me. I have to always like be on the go. So I showed dogs all around the country, had some of the top dogs in the country, and then I started having skin issues with some of my Chinese Cresteds, and I formulated a skincare line for dogs. And that took off, and that was been a really successful business up until supply chain issues with COVID. It's kind of killed it, but it's coming back slowly. And now we live in Florida, and I love that. It's beautiful here. It's like paradise.
It looks like you live a really magical life with all the dolphins and the animals.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, so I have like a wild pet dolphin that comes and visits me and my daughter, and he plays like hide and seek through the docks, and he'll bring her fish and like blow his blowhole at her face and like jump out of the water, and he follows us everywhere. And she named him Ocean, and it's so adorable. And so we're out on the water a lot and traveling, and I've got the best husband and an amazing little girl, and she's 7 now. And it's been great.
Cool.
That was the end of my questions. Holly, do you have anything else? Or Audra, do you have anything you want to add?
I don't know. I mean, like I always look at things like such positively that like even though like I went through what I did in my life, like I'm glad that even the bad things happened in my life, because I am where I am today, and without it I wouldn't be where I am today. And so like I just have a question for you guys, like what do you think the most positive thing that Hef did for you guys in your life?
Well, I think it's just the overall, like, just everything. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today without the mansion and Hef, and but I also have to say that it came at my pushing. Like it didn't just fall into my lap. Like it was something I had to really push for and give up a lot for too. But it wouldn't have happened without him and the show and, you know, the magazine and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really grateful for everything and all of it. And I look back on my memories really fondly. And I mean, even going through all our scrapbooks and stuff like that, like it's so much fun and a lot of good times in there. And reviewing things like this, I mean, there's some negative things, and a lot of the negative things though come with the show and the way it was edited, and not so much what really happened.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have a lot of positives.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I could probably think of something more fun and more interesting if I had time to think about it. But I think for me, the best thing he ever gave me was like the opportunity to work at the studio. And being able to like work with him on just a creative level, you know, was really great. And obviously I learned a lot from that. And I think that was a rare thing. Like I think for so long, no matter how close he and I were, I feel like I was kind of being held to a weird standard and kind of being like punished for things other people did wrong, you know, like he'd been burned by people. So then I was held to this standard. And I kind of felt like for me, being able to work at the studio was something he let me do that was kind of like unprecedented. You know what I mean? And just to be able to like I was always so afraid to like stand up for myself or even stand up for other people in the group sometimes. But when it came to work, because I felt like I was doing him a favor or like, oh, if we do this change, this will save you a lot of money, to be able to be heard and listened to was really unusual. So I think that's probably what I'm most grateful for.
Yeah, well, that was such a great job for you though, because you were so creative and so good at doing the centerfolds, and you knew what Playboy wanted, you know.
Thanks.
I thought you were great at
it. Like, I think people would think that I would come out of the mansion being like really competitive with other women or feeling, you know, like I don't measure up. And I did feel that way for a long time, but I felt like working at the studio, I was constantly like looking for beautiful women or looking for women who had potential and always trying to help them look their best and be their best and like achieve this dream that I had wanted for so long. And I feel like that did so much for just my character and my security moving forward.
Well, I think that was what was great about us as a group too, is like all the girls that did come through, because there were so many that would test and everything like that. We were all so supportive. And I remember when I first got there, before you guys were there, it was like everybody was so catty at first when a new girl would come in. They don't want to get to know you because they don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. And, you know, they just kind of like blow you off. And I felt like all of us were so receptive to new people. We tried to help them. We were always, you know, nice to everybody that came through there.
Yeah. What was your favorite memory, Audra? What was your most fun moment?
I enjoyed being able to travel the world and represent Playboy. And it was so great to be able to see the different cultures and different people. And it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a weird moment? Like something that was like so bizarre that you're like, oh my God, this was crazy, only at the Playboy Mansion?
Yeah, or like a funny party moment or something.
Well, I always thought that the mansion, when they'd rent out the party, they thought it was like this hedonistic, like crazy thing, and it wasn't. And so like people would get carried away, and there was always like crazy moments then. But like half sexual parties, I didn't experience that, but all the rented ones. I know they had where you had to try to get these tickets. I know, right? Well, it's funny because of what I'm going to say. So they had these other girls that were not like affiliated with Playboy that were there that they hired too, along with us Playmates. And so you would have to try to get these tickets from these guys, and whoever got the most tickets would get these like prizes. And one of them was like this really expensive like Cartier watch. But you literally had to get like every single ticket. And so these girls are going around like doing the most like trashy, horrific things you could absolutely imagine. It was so bad. That's what stands out the most to me.
What a sight.
But it was like totally not Playboy related. But
yeah,
it was at the mansion because they had rented it. Yeah, things were going on in bathrooms that don't normally go.
Holly, based on what you were saying earlier too about like being really supportive of women and stuff like that, I feel like after I left the mansion, there was kind of like an expectation that I was gonna be like if I met a girl like that I was judging or competitive or jealous or something like that, and I was like, are you kidding? Like we were like so supportive of each other, and we met so many women coming and going from the mansion all the time, and we were like rooting for people. And like that's not like, I can understand like that it seems like a lot of women are immediately jealous or immediately catty or immediately like competitive or like want to compete or whatever, but I feel like the situation that we lived in for so long makes us the opposite, like that we're very supportive of other women, especially beautiful women that other people might that other women might feel intimidated about. We actually feel inspired by it and support it and that kind of thing.
Exactly. Like I feel like any dysmorphia or any like hardness I have on myself walking away from that place, it's like turned in on myself. It's not like a thing where I'm like competitive with other people or feel mad if another pretty girl walks in the room. In fact, I kind of feel like it's the opposite. And it was almost like boot camp to not feel that way, you know?
Right.
Well, I love your guys' show because like everything reality before the girls next door was always like this catty fighting, like tons of drama and everything. And like that's why like I didn't really want to be involved. And your guys' show like catapulted you guys. And I thought, even though there's like things here and there that you guys are like nitpicking about and everything, and I understand, like I thought the show was really great. I thought it was like the first reality show that was like everybody really gotten into. I mean, even my husband watched it, you know, with some of his friends, you know, and it was like everybody watched it and everybody liked it. And, you know, it does suck that some people get like held up to a different standard than what they really were in person. But, you know, all in all, like it was just such a great thing. I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy for your success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're so happy for you too. Your life just looks very fairy tale. It looks so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I love it. Very fortunate.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we got to do this too, because I feel like people love to stoke the fire and act like there's so much drama and all that kind of stuff. So I'm so glad that we got to do this. And I'm glad this podcast gives us the opportunity, not that we couldn't do it on our own, but it gives us the opportunity to do it publicly so that other people can see the conversation and hear it and know where the truth lies. And people can nitpick this and say whatever they want to say or whatever, but the truth still lies here. Here we are, all three of us in the same room, quote unquote, sort of, you know, talking it out. And this is where the truth lies, you know. Are you guys recovered from the hurricane?
Yeah. We had the eye go right over us. So we got quite a bit of damage, but nothing like major structural. So we were blessed, but Fort Myers still, they haven't cleaned it all up yet. And it looks like a third world country. It's unrecognizable.
Anyway, Holly, I know you have to get going by noon, so
thank you so much for joining us. This is a great episode. Yeah. We're excited.
Thanks, Audra. So good catching up and seeing you again.
Yeah, great seeing you guys. Hopefully we'll see each other in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Have a great day, guys.
Right,
bye, guys.
Bye.